Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare again with you on the 15th of uh, May 2025. I'm joined, as usual, by psychic medium and remote viewer Liz Cross. How are we doing today, Liz?
Oh, I'm so excited for this probe.
I can't
I
wait.
know. I'm just waiting for you to spit feathers towards the end.
Well, you'll edit it out. You'll edit it out, and it'll be in the cutting. It'll go on the cutting room floor.
Oh
Right.
my goodness. Immigration, immigration, immigration. Where do we start?
Well, we'll start with the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer. Um, I'm not sure really. So you need to grab hold of him.
Okay,
Um,
I have him.
okay.
Oh,
Why has he?
before we start, mind probes can be very difficult for some people to handle. So if you're one of those people that cannot handle a mind probe, please skip this video, go on to something else, because mind probes can be really hard for some people. It's so raw. We're bypassing the PR spin machines, the conscious mind PR spin. So please, if you can't handle it, it's upsetting for you, whatever, it's fine. You can skip this video. There's lots of other videos on the channel. Okay, Mr. Shakespeare, take it away.
Okay. Right. Right. Let's start off with Starmer. Why has he appeared to have changed his tack as regards to the migrant situation in the UK? Illegal immigration, migrants, what call it what you want. These people that are coming across daily and that are in the boats, on the boats.
Have you changed your policy regarding the people coming across on the boat? No, that has not changed. That
So,
has not changed at all. He says we can't change that.
well, okay. The reason that they get housed, get money, benefits, cards, whatever, for everything is because we ascribe to the European Court of Human Rights. Now, why are we still with that? Because we are not in the EU. We haven't been in the EU for, since whenever, 2016. So why are we still ascribed to that? Why are we still doing it?
Why are we still, and it's the European Court of Human Rights, why are we still linked to the European Court of Human Rights? Because it's the right thing to do.
Well, clearly it's not the right thing to do because we can't get rid of the people that are coming here illegally on boats.
So let's ask this question. As you are processing, how long does it take to process one individual? If they come in today, when at this current rate, when do we expect them to be processed? How many years? It's taking about 4 years per person.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the point. The people that are bringing them across or sending them across, they're overwhelming. All they have to do is claim political asylum, and then all of the rules regarding that kick in. I understand they can't do anything about it. They're all coached to say that. They lose their documentation in the water coming across. All these things are quite well discussed on other platforms, but they don't. There's a reason why. Let's ask Kemi, whatever her name is. Okay,
Kemi, the
yeah,
conservative.
yeah. So she's the leader of the Conservative Party, but she has not been in power. She's only the leader of the opposition, and obviously, it's a lot easier to be the leader of the opposition than to actually be the Prime Minister. But what's her view on all these people coming across?
What is your view on all the migrants coming across in boats? She says her own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions. What would you do if you were prime minister? She would cancel the ECHR, is what she just said, and turn them around, send them back.
Right.
And she's Nigerian by birth.
Came through to the UK on a legal method. She probably applied for a visa, flew over, went down the normal things that we would as we understand how people come in. I don't think people are against migration. It's just, I think people are against the illegal migration. This has been done for a reason. Why does she think so many, why does she think the current government allows so many people in and
Why do you,
will not repeal the European Courts of Human Rights legislation? Why does she think they won't do it?
why do you think the current government is just allowing them to come in? She says her own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions, they want Labor voters.
Okay, but don't they have to be British nationals to be a voter? They can't just come in from wherever and then become a voter, can they?
Don't they have to be British? Yes, she says that's all part of the plan. They will become British citizens. That's in the works. She is very firm when she talks to me about this. She believes, so you believe that Labor have a plan. I firmly do, she says, that they will process these people, and she says give them citizenship.
Right. Now, why did she's the leader of the Conservative Party, why did none of her predecessors, when the Conservatives were in power, why did they not repeal the European Courts of Human Rights Act? In other words, migrants came in under the last Tory administration. Nobody stopped them.
Why do you believe that your party, nobody stopped them? Everybody's scared. They're scared of being labeled as xenophobic. Now, what she's saying is that she has an advantage, as she's telling me, because she is Black. Therefore, they can't accuse her of being xenophobic,
Right.
racist. But I'm saying Rishi Sunak was Indian. Oh, she says, oh, he's a lightweight. Did you like Rishi? No, she does not like Rishi Sunak at all. No. Waste of space, she just said to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was another placeholder, he's seriously rich, seriously wealthy through his Indian family connections. So, I think it was almost like a bit of playtime when he was leader. Okay. Does she envisage going back to, historical, true conservative values?
Do you believe that you will be able to go back, lead the party back into conservative values? She's trying. She's
Who does,
trying.
in her opinion, who does she hold as in the highest regard of as a previous leader of the Conservative Party? Who was in her opinion, prior to herself, who was the best Conservative Party leader?
In your opinion, prior to you, who was the best conservative party? Ooh, conservative party, Thatcher.
Ooh, well done, Kemi. Yeah, okay, good.
That's what she just said. She said
Yeah, well, I
Thatcher.
agree.
Really,
Well,
even
I
though
agree with her. So me and her are on the
I
same
know.
page on that one.
But a lot of people are not going to agree with that. Let's ask this question. Why do you think Thatcher? Because she was a strong woman. So is it basically just because she was female? No, not just because she was female, because she shut down the mines. She moved the country forward out of that mining era. It needed to go. It needed to shift. So I'm saying to her, okay, now we're shifting into the information age. Do you believe that you could lead Britain? Yes, she doesn't want to do that. You see, she's shaking her head. So you don't want to shift into the information age. No, she thinks that shifting into the information age for the country is a disaster. Why do you think that? Because of the amount of job losses. Now, I don't know if anybody watched PMQs yesterday. I only watched like a couple of minutes, and she asked Keir Starmer about the fact that since he's taken over as prime minister, there have been an increase in job losses by 10%. And I don't even think he gave an answer. He always gives some wishy-washy kind of answer. And now his favorite line, well, his two favorite lines are 22 billion black hole, which he says they've inherited, which they probably did, And the other line that now he comes in every week with is, she just comes here to talk down the country. But he certainly changed. Let's ask him this question. Sorry, Mr. Shakespeare. You are now cracking down. I'm talking to Keir Starmer. You are now cracking down on the migration or the migrant policy, but these are legal migrants. He just said that to me. He's
They are.
cracking down on the legal migrants. What are you planning to do about the illegal? No, he's just throwing his hands up in the air saying we're not doing anything. Is the reason that you're cracking down on the legal migration, like students or temporary visas and things like that, is the reason you're cracking down on that because reform won a lot of local elections? Yeah, see, it scared him. So this is all just smoke and mirrors, I'm afraid.
Well, of course. Well, let's ask him, why is there an I mean, is the overarching policy to allow the migrants to come in purely to just generate, because, as everybody has pointed out, and there's no women, there's no children, there's no families that come across on these dinghies. There's just males of a certain age. Some people call them fighting age males. So that means, they're not coming over and they're 60, 70, 80 years old. They're sort of in the 18 to 30 age bracket. They're all males of all of that age. Is he bringing them in just purely to become Labour voters?
Are you bringing the illegal migrants in, which are mostly males, hardly any women, hardly any children? You can't prove who they are. They've lost their documentation. They're of fighting age. Are you planning, is the intention to turn them into Labor voters? That's the plan. Oh my God. I can't believe he just said that to me.
What about the resentment that the existing indigenous population feel about this? What does he think about that?
I can't, I'm shocked. I'm in disbelief that he just said that to me. This
Well,
is some underlying plan, and as we've probed out, and some people are like, oh, Liz, I'm so confused. How would the royal family ever be overthrown 4 generations from now? And I'm going to say to them, you need to go and see what's happening in current day, modern day Britain, right? So the question is to Keir Starmer, sorry, how does he feel about the indigenous he doesn't care. How do you feel about the indigenous population? So what? That's what he just said to me. So what?
what about, how does he feel about the indigenous population, the legal residents of the UK who have been lifelong Labour voters, perhaps, who don't like this? What does he think about those?
What do you think about the indigenous population that have been lifelong Labor voters what do you think about that? That's their tough luck, is what he just said to me. Why do you say that? They're always going to vote Labor. Okay. I kind of get what he's saying, Mr. Shakespeare, right?
Yes, I do as well, because, if you're a Labour voter and you've only ever voted Labour, you won't vote anybody else. Okay, all right, fine. So he doesn't have to worry about those. And the
And
people that only ever vote Tory, Conservative, they're not going to vote Labour. So
so, but
what does he think about the Reform Party? Because they've done very well at the local elections.
what do you think about he doesn't like Nigel Farage. What do you think about the Reform Party? He says, I want to eat them and spit them out. I want to chew them up and spit them out. He
Okay.
plans to wipe the floor with them. Now, for those of you living outside of the UK, going back to what Mr. Shakespeare said, you have generations, multiple generations of people that I vote Labour, my dad voted Labour, my grand voted Labour. I'll always vote Labor. And you'll have towns and generations and towns of people that only vote Labor because that's all they know, right? That's what Keir Starmer's talking about. He's not worried about it. He's like, they're always going to vote Labor. So with his opinion to reform, what he's saying is that he's planning to wipe the floor with them.
But the more that they don't do anything about this illegal migration, and the more that Nigel Farage and Reform go on about it, the more people will vote for, even die in the wool hardened Labour voters will switch to Reform. So, he's bringing across X amount of people, hopefully to become citizens, residents, and vote Labour. And yet, there's a lot more people in England that will defect to the Reform Party as a protest vote. What does he think about that?
Do you think that a lot of Labor voters will defect to the reform? No, he, in his own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions, he is saying that he does not believe that they will defect. You know, it's almost like he's playing upon, I don't know how to put it. I don't want, I just don't know how to say this. It's just like they're just sure votes. They can do whatever they want to these people. They can make whatever policies they want. They just know that these voters are in the bag, according to his own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions.
Right. Okay.
He does not believe they're going to vote reform.
Well, whether they vote Reform or whether they vote Conservative, I mean, every vote for somebody that's not Labour is a vote lost, isn't it? You know.
Everybody, so somebody who doesn't vote for Labor is a vote lost. Absolutely, he says. But we hold the majority.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And did they still hold the majority in the last local election? I guess let's ask him. Did you hold the majority in the last? Yes, they did. That's the problem. That's the problem.
The problem is the last Conservative government in the UK, which was in power for a long time, were not really Conservatives. They were basically, you know, Labour people. I mean, they were. They just didn't follow Conservative policies. And that's why they lost at the general election, because people voted Labour as a protest vote in our first past the post left, sort of one or the other party, you know. Um,
I
but
thought,
that's why the Conservatives lost the power. So what will happen is, as it happened every time, Labour will be in power for a few years, 5 years, then they will lose and they will mess up everything big time, and then the Conservatives will have to come in. Now, if they've got a strong leader, if Kemi is going to try and be Thatcher and do the right thing, then she's got half a chance, you know? Because I mean, the fiscal irresponsibility, that was another thing that was weird. The fiscal irresponsibility of the last Conservative Party, that's just not being conservative. It was almost like they had fifth columnists in there from the Labour Party. They were not conservative. We haven't had a proper conservative leader since Thatcher. She is right about that.
so here's the thing. You and I have done quite a few videos on this, and even a couple of years ago, where we said that come the next general election, reform gains the lead. Okay, now I'm asking Thatcher and Churchill here. I've got them both standing here. Kemi, she is not going to win the next election. Are Labor going to win the next election? No. Our reform, I think it's going to be by a very slim margin, reform are going to win. But in the meantime, you've got 4 to 5 years of boats coming in.
Yeah.
And how many are coming through on the boats? Let's ask. So, and they have to house them in hotels. There are hoteliers making millions and millions and millions of pounds.
Right. Yeah. Now, obviously, from the UK government's point of view, current government, they think they can turn those people into Labour voters. I mean, they are clueless to what's actually going on on the streets and things like that, what the effect that this is having on the indigenous population, who are absolutely sick to the back teeth of all of it. They're not interested in it. Um, and the problem they've got is that everything they get handed out, they're legally entitled to. If the government try and kick them out, there's some very hard left lawyers that immediately jump to their protection and say, hold on a minute, you can't do that. They have rights under the human, blah, blah, blah. And they do. That's the sad fact. But also the sad fact is that the previous Conservative government did not do anything about it. And this government is not going to do anything about it. It's almost like the whole of the UK is being driven hard into a wall. They're deliberately trying to to do this. So the bigger question is who, because the politicians are they're these are the people who take orders. They do. So there must be some, people behind the scene, the overarching thing as to why they want to drive, the UK into the wall, because they can't get enough voters in before everything, people would have had enough. They've had enough now, but I don't think they're at boiling point yet. But I can see a time. Cliff High has predicted that. You go and watch some of Cliff High's earlier videos where he says what he thinks will happen. I'm not gonna repeat it on here, but it's not good for the UK or Ireland, by the way. You know, before the country erupts and blows.
I don't think people outside of the UK understand how small the UK actually is.
No,
The UK, you can fit all of the UK in some states in the
you can fit it into
USA.
Florida. You can fit it into Florida.
Right. So that's just to put it into context, people need to understand that that's how small the UK is. Now, when you were talking at some point, I asked Starmer how many are coming across on boats in a
Right.
country of what? I think the population has severely increased to what, 70 million?
Yeah, some 68, 70, 70, 69. Yeah, we hear different numbers, but we don't really know.
And what percentage of that are actually able to vote?
Well, anybody over the age of 18 for sure, if they're a legal resident, if they're British national, can vote. But as we know from, the US elections, they had a lot of illegal voters that were just, this is how they game the system. They game the system. Their policies are bad. I don't get that, my policies are really bad, but I'll pay you to vote for me. Okay, it must take into account that in the middle of winter, in January, December, February, when the rough seas and all that lot, it's not the same as coming across on a calm summer's day, for example. Farage, let's get Nigel Farage because he tends to keep an eye
Okay.
on. He tends to keep an eye on this. So ask him. What does let's grab Farage, please.
Okay.
Through his research and his resources and his sources, what does he believe, on average, are the number of migrants coming across into the UK from wherever, from whatever crossing point? If he had to put a number on it, which we're asking him to, what does he say as a number totally that are coming through?
As a number that are coming through per week
Yeah, per week. Yeah,
on the boats. How many are coming through? He's saying 1 to 2,000.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, so 1 to 2,000, let's say maximum 2.
Yeah,
Okay, so 52 times 4 is 208 times, say 2,000 per week.
yeah, it's about 416,000.
But that's 416,000. How would they make them citizens though? Let's ask him, why do you think we're talking to Nigel Farage. Why do you think the UK will not pull away from the European Court of Human Rights? Because they don't know what they're doing. Why do you think, okay, that aside, why do you say they don't know what they're doing? Because they want to rejoin the EU. They're scared to pull away from the European Court of Human Rights that really, according to Nigel Farage, is the last sort of stronghold that Europe has on the UK. And it means we're not playing fairly. We're putting the burden of the migrants on you. We're not sharing the burden. He says that that is the last way to cut firm ties with Europe.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's true. I think they're absolutely scared. And I think there's a lot of people, and I think Starmer wants Britain or has been told to get Britain back into the European Union.
Well, we got that on a probe. If you remember, or a prediction, we said that he would, through the back door, start rejoining all of these European policies. UK would start, signing up again through Starmer. So let's ask this question to Starmer. Do you want the UK to rejoin the EU? Oh, that would be his dream come true. That is exactly what he just said to me, to reunify and reunite the UK with the European common market, he said. Okay. Why? Economically, he said it makes sense.
Not
But
really,
it also means you have to shoulder the burden. So right now, let's ask this question. You were shouldering the burden of these illegal migrants, or the migrants coming across the channel, but you're not receiving any economic benefit to the European Union. He says, we will do, though. We will do. I'm going to fix that.
yeah, okay.
So
If
there's your answer, Mr. Shakespeare.
you know, we
Well, I saw in the headlines that where Starmer's house was set on fire, his properties were attacked or something. And I saw in the headlines this morning, the Russians may have attacked Starmer's
Yeah, okay.
property.
Well, yeah. It's just disgruntled. I mean, I can't remember any politician, even some of the most hated ones, having their buildings attacked. I mean, I just don't remember. I know he lives in Downing Street, but he's got other, I think he's got one or two other properties, but I don't, this is public opinion and public sentiment boiling over, I would imagine, you know. People have just had enough. They're fed up with it.
Give some sort of amnesty to the migrants to make them voters so that Labor would always stay in power. But I got news for both parties. I don't think either party are going to be able to stay in power. I think going forward, so let's ask this question. Going forward, is reform going to maintain their hold? No. It's going to go reform, and then what will happen? It'll go back conservative, and then what happens? It'll be switching from reform to conservative for a while.
Right.
So that also gives you some sort of idea of why the need to accumulate more voters. But they don't understand that it's because of the policies that they have. Yeah, I can see it going reform conservative for a while. And then what happens when, maybe 2 or 3 generations down the line have gone through the system? What happens to the voting then? Then it goes solid Labor. So this isn't necessarily a short-term plan. This is a overall long-term plan This is long term. And don't forget, Mr. Shakespeare, a lot of these politicians traditionally are multi-generational politicians. My dad was a politician, my mom was a politician, my uncle. These are families that are raising the next generations of politicians. It kind of makes sense.
You have to have people that are from the outside. You have to have people that have real life experience who don't just hang around the Beltway or the corridors of Whitehall, or sorry, Downing Street, that type of thing. You have to have people that have done other things. Can't just have politicians who have done nothing else but be a politician. That's no good. Not for any
Mhm.
country, not just for England, you know.
All right. Well, we'll stop this one here. Thanks so much.
Mhm.